Ezra Levant here for Rebel News. I'm outside just an absolutely gorgeous old church in Birmingham with a beautifully maintained cemetery out front. I spent some time looking at the gravestones today. Some of them go back centuries. That is part of the history of the indigenous British people. It's a beautiful history. It's here in Birmingham. You may have heard of a show called Peaky Blinders, set about a century or so ago. But that Birmingham, I think, is gone, or at least going. 2 censuses ago, the population of Birmingham was about a quarter Muslim. Now it's just about a half. And that rising dominant Birmingham, I think, is leaving the old Birmingham in the dust. Let me show you a little bit of the new Birmingham. Do you see all those police cars behind me? And over there, the vests? Those are here because about a couple of blocks away is a football stadium. That's what they call soccer over here. And the local team, maybe you've heard of it, called Aston Villa. Its roots go back more than a century. Football is the sport they love here the most. They're playing a game against an Israeli team called Maccabi Tel Aviv. It's part of the league that goes around in sort of exhibition games. But local activists in the Islamist community basically threatened to riot if the Israeli team and their fans were allowed in. So the local football authority asked the Israeli team and basically told them, no fans allowed. No one from Israel, no one from Tel Aviv is allowed to attend tonight's game.
Maccabi Tel Aviv fans have been banned. Good news for Aston and Aston Villa supporters. And we need to thank our brother Ayub Khan for all his hard work. But that was the start of the work.
So you're going to have half a stadium empty because fans of one side are simply not allowed. Now that didn't satisfy the radical Islamists, including some perpetually campaigning politicians. This area is where some of those Lend Gaza Your Vote MPs came from. I don't know if you know that, but in the last general election here in the UK, the Labour Party won, the Conservatives are the opposition, and there's the Reform UK Party, which has a small number of seats, but they lead in the polls. There were half a dozen districts across the UK where neither Labour nor Tories won. But local Islamist candidates who campaigned on Gaza, they literally said, lend Gaza your vote. And those activists were behind the ban of the Israeli and Jewish supporters of Tel Aviv Maccabi. Now that Tel Aviv team will be attending tonight without any Jewish fans other than a handful who have said we're going nonetheless. And we'll meet up with one of them later today, and hopefully police presence will be strong around him. The local police force, the West Midlands Police, has announced, first they announced 700 police on the street. Now they've upped that to 1,000 police on the street. And by the way, it's still 4 hours before the game, and you can see all these cops mustering behind me. I'm shocked to see an English flag there. There's far more Palestinian flags here in Birmingham. Why would you need 1,000 riot police in Birmingham at a football match if there are no Jewish fans? Because, by the way, these radical Islamist candidates said the risk to Birmingham was the Jewish fans. They are violent, don't you know? Because everyone knows it's the Jewish terrorists who keep on blowing up Islamists.
We've got the violent fans away from Aston. Now is the next step.
Why would you need 1,000 police on the street if there are no Jewish fans? It's because radical activists have called on tens of thousands of Muslims to march on the stadium, not just happy with the fact that no Jews are allowed to attend, but to stop the team itself. Their argument is that those soccer players, for all they know, are part of the Israeli army, and no one who is an Israeli, and they have conscription over there, must ever be allowed to set foot in Birmingham.
On the day of the match, we will be here joining the many groups that are protesting, and I'm sure we're making enough noise to show them our disgust with the Israeli establishment. We need to unite because we need to send a clear message to the Israeli establishment that we will not stand with any sort of genocide, and we will stand with the Palestinians Netanyahu will know and will receive a strong message when Maccabi Tel Aviv does not play at Villa.
Now, when this was Birmingham, when Birmingham was a peaceful, happy Christian city, everyone got along pretty well, and there was a small Jewish population here, but this Birmingham really isn't around anymore. Oh, look at this. Here's a couple of billboard trucks. That's our style. What do they say? The goal is equality. Sport has the power to change the word. Banning Jews is discrimination, not protection. Ban hatred, not fans. Football unites. Hate divides. It looks like 5 digital billboard trucks driving by. I appreciate that. I'm an aficionado of the digital billboard trucks myself, but you know, that's really not going to change the underlying issue. Now, the police capitulated to the Islamist politicians. Of course they did. And I think if the police had their way, there would be no Jews allowed tonight. Like I say, there's a handful who will be coming in defiance. But the problem is not actually with Aston Villa or the West Midlands Police. That's more a symptom of the underlying problem. The underlying problem is what happens when the politicians of the United Kingdom decide to replace Brits with people from Pakistan and Bangladesh and other places that have very little connection to the history and values and even the language of the United Kingdom. I wandered around a little bit in Birmingham today, and I kept thinking, oh, I'm in a Muslim district. No, that's just Birmingham. Birmingham is a Muslim district. Birmingham is the second largest city in the United Kingdom. Now, I think most Muslims in Birmingham just want to have a better life, and basically even a declining, poor and impoverished Birmingham is much better than living in Pakistan or Bangladesh. But there's enough when you have a critical mass of, say, 500,000 people, even if only 1% are radical. There's some car park team going by, those aren't police. Even if 1% are radical, that's enough to terrify an entire city and to make police decide to take the path of least resistance. Anyways, like I say, the game kicks off in about 4 hours. I'm wearing my stab vest today, so hopefully I won't need to use it. I'll give you reports and I'll put them on a website called rebelfieldreports.com. Rebel Field Reports, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're out in the field telling you the news. I want to see what it's like when a major British city, more than 1 million people, becomes a de facto no-go zone for Jews, Israelis, and those who support them. You know, there was a radical group of Muslim activists that circulated in the city last night, putting up signs saying, if you spot a Zionist, call the terror hotline. So they're not just after Jews and Israelis, they're after any Christians who support Israel. And, you know, I think that what's happening is that the British police and politicians have realized that it's just too difficult to uphold British values and the British standards of equality before the law. And I'm worried that if it happens in Birmingham, why can't it happen in London? Why can't it happen in New York, Toronto, and other places? I always say when I come to the United Kingdom, it's like a dystopian time machine. I can see what life in Canada is going to be like in 5 or 10 years. We'll see what it's like tonight. Like I say, there's 1 or 2 Jews who have decided to come and make it publicly known. And I understand that they'll have about 100 cops forming a barrier around them. Some of the Muslim protesters expect it tonight, and I think there's going to be tens of thousands. Some of them may respect the police line, but I think a lot of them, the others, including something called a Muslim Defense League, I think they're out for some action. I think they want a fight. And if they find someone, whether it's police or some stubborn Jew who insists on coming, there may be violence tonight. I hope there won't be. But even if there's not, the effect is already seen. Jews are banned from sports in Birmingham, or at least Jewish fans and anyone who might identify as Jews. And if you don't have a stab vest, well, you better get one soon. Check out all my reports tonight at rebelfieldreports.com.